He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is the Alex Marlow Show.
This is the Alex Marlow Show. Thanks for joining me, everyone, today. You guys riding the waves? We're all riding the waves here. If you need some encouragement about what's going on, my show with John Carney yesterday was really, I think, important because it was some real clarity into what this is all about. We are in a moment where this is the hill to die on. We are resetting global trade. It is what we have talked about for decades, and it is finally here. This is the last opportunity to do so, and I think it's off to a pretty good start because you see all these countries. I was looking at it on the list. The only countries that have retaliated so far are China and Canada a little bit, and that's it. And everyone else has been neutral or positive, and I think that we're going to forge new deals. These deals are going to be amazing for this country. They're going to be amazing for our manufacturing base. And I think what people are starting to come around to is that Trump really is playing the 4D chess. He really is doing the thing that we wanted him to do in the sense that he has all of the cards. I was talking to a very smart friend the other day, and he might listen to the show, so he'll enjoy this. But he explained to me exactly what Trump needs to do. But then he was objecting that none of Trump's messaging is suggesting that Trump is going to do all these things. And then lo and behold, Trump comes in and he does exactly what he needs to do, using the tariffs as leverage to get things that he wants. He understands that we don't need to have equal tariffs we don't need to have equal trade balances with every country. We don't need to have balanced trade. Some countries is not going to happen. But what he can do is use these tariffs to pull people out of the orbit of China. This has been my unified theory about everything Trump is doing. This is why he wants to buy Greenland, because China's encroachment into the Arctic. This is why he wants the Panama Canal, because this is China's encroachment into our hemisphere, and it's unjust that Chinese companies control the Panama Canal in general. This is why he had those talks with Russia and Saudi Arabia, because he is trying to pull Russia away from the Sinosphere. Trump understands the existential threat to this country at this time. He understands the existential threat to his own legacy is China if China eats our lunch. So he feels that China is weak. Their economy is not strong. They will not tell us the truth. And Xi Jinping is at a weak point relative to where he's been in his career. Trump feels like he can have the upper hand. If China's going to retaliate, the tariff's going to get 10% higher. It's going to create some market volatility. Market's a little bit down today, but it ticked back up, and China will crack under the pressure. I guarantee it. This is the hill we're dying on. We have so many positive things to talk about on today's show. China's threatening now the free world with the ghost of Mao Zedong. Recall that last week we had a really kind of amazing show. We were talking to Dr. Paul Kengor about the monsters of the 20th century and just what a murderous fiend Chairman Mao was. And now he wasn't some brilliant guy. He was just someone who was able to commandeer power when the rest of the nation wasn't looking, mostly because they were focused on World War II. Really bad guy. And now the Chinese Foreign Ministry putting out clips of Chairman Mao saying we're not going to yield and we're going to fight to complete triumph. So that's the sentiment. They're channeling Mao there over China in just not in strong footing. We're getting some good economic news from Trump today. Promises made, promises kept was our headline of Breitbart News. Consumer prices fell in March, defying predictions on tarifflation. So we kept being told tariffs are going to raise prices. Everything's going up from here. Well, as it turns out, the tariffs now have got the prices down a little bit in the consumer prices sector, which looks at some really key indicators for purchases that we make all the time. This was such good news that John Carney, who was on vacation, briefly came off of vacation this morning to write this up because we saw core good prices falling 0.1% last month. Clothing rose 0.4%, which is a slowdown in the prior month's inflation. Smartphones fell 1.1%. So we're told all this stuff is going up. Maybe it'll happen. But as of now, we're talking about a light downtick in consumer spending in general in these core prices, and that's good news for us. So we're holding the line. We're staying positive. We're staying strong. And yes, there's some volatility right now, but if Trump keeps making good in his promises, you have to trust that even though he's not going to give it all away with his overt rhetoric, he really is to be taken seriously, but not literally. And I think everyone innately understands this. We are going to undo Belt and Road. We are going to pull people out of China's sphere of influence. And Trump is going to use his abilities right now with his early momentum to get this stuff in place so that we will have time, if there are any short-term pain, for it to bounce back. So we're feeling good about this. But we got to check in on our friends on the left, because our friends on the left, you never know what's going on with them. They could lose their minds on this. This is someone who is apparently a big left-wing podcaster. His name is Pearl Mania. And producer Misty keeps an eye on the internet for me sometimes when I'm doing wonky stuff. And she found this for me. So let's use this as an example of what's going on over on the left. Here we go.
No, you see, Trump is playing chess. He's not playing checkers. And in a game of tariffs, Trump is the one who holds all the cards. He's not playing chess. He's playing golf. And even if he was playing chess, why would there be cards? There are no cards in chess. There are pieces. Like this one, you might recognize it, a white pawn. It often gets sacrificed in the early game over and over again.
So this is a new phenomenon that I need to play with, because Missy, you're gonna help me with this, because we're still new at this. We're still crafting my brand. It's so horrible to think of it that way. I just have these ideas, and I like these ideas, and I like communicating and connecting with an audience. But is this what it takes to be successful online? You just have to be just a total ball of energy. I've been watching this. Everyone's obsessed now with this YouTuber, this guy called I Show Speed. He's this 21-year-old guy who talks about video games and soccer. And as far as I can tell, the only thing he has to offer the world is immeasurable amounts of energy. The guy is just completely kinetic. He's freaking out every second. And he's now the most popular YouTuber. So this is what it takes, I guess. You just act really animated, and you don't have to say anything meaningful. You just have to act really intense about it. I guess I'm fairly intense, but I'm never going to do this routine with this guy. So anyway, he was the one who said that Trump's got cards and is playing chess. So he's putting words in Trump's mouth. But let's see where he's going. Let's see where he's taking this.
And there are no cards. You don't want a man who bankrupted multiple casinos to play poker. That means he's terrible at poker. Maybe if he was playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon, oh wait, the tariffs raised the price on those. Maybe, just maybe he's playing 52 card pickup. Maybe that's what he's playing.
You guys are missing the screens. This guy he's a ginger. He's in a room. He's got some anime in the background. He's just screaming at the camera. He's got a chessboard in front of him. And he just threw a bunch of cards all over the room, playing cards. It just, how do you walk around after you do this routine online? Because I guess there's a performance art acting element to it. But then does he go and just go to the supermarket and pick up groceries? Does he pick up kids from school? I mean, I'm guessing he doesn't have kids. Maybe he does. I don't know. He has a kid. So then he's got to go to the pickup line after this. Like, what did you do today? I yelled at the camera, threw some cards across the room, freaked out about Trump, made some strange analogies that no one could follow. All right, let's see.
Oh, look, he made a big mess. He's good at that. Maybe that's what he's playing, but he isn't. He's not playing chess. He's not playing on a board like this. He's playing in economic policy, and that involves spreadsheets and formulas and having plans that last longer than a tweet.
So Matt Boyle, my Washington bureau chief, is in Greece right now, and all these world leaders want to talk to Matt Boyle. And why do world leaders want to talk to Matt Boyle? Because they know if Matt Boyle covers his stuff, then the president's going to read it, and they're enthusiastic about working with the president. So this is the whole thing that's going on, is that the world is taking Trump seriously because they get it. They understand what Trump does. Trump is not giving away all of his cards right away. He's not showing his hand. But he's very tough. And I'll tell you, everything that I saw, both on and off record from him, is that he's jacked up on the tariffs. He's confident in the tariffs. He thinks they're going to work. And the evidence from yesterday is that they are working. And him continuing to put pressure on China is so, so important. You guys heard that clip that I played for Mr. Wonderful yesterday, how it's not even just about reshoring. It's also about the nefarious influence on China across the world. And the fact that they steal our intellectual property, that they have concentration camps, they have no free speech. If you have an issue with them in terms of a business that has to operate in China, you can't go through the judicial process there. You can't litigate to sort things out. Why do we want to continue to manage the decline where we become more subservient to China for our economy? Obviously, that's not a good thing for a dominant nation. And Trump's trying to bring us back. And so all these Americans are just so intent to attack Trump over it. All right, let's hear a little more from this tantrum.
He also isn't even good at chess. I don't think he's ever even played it. Did you know that if you get your pawn to the edge of the board, you can change it to anything? Look, I just changed him into a black queen. That's woke. That's DEI. We can't even teach this in schools anymore.
That's kind of funny. All right. Yeah, that's funny. It's a good chess joke. All right, guys, it is the pre-end. That's, that moment of the week where it's past lunchtime on Thursday, but not quite Friday yet. And I'm starting to think about this weekend. I will be out there. I will be grilling. I think it's going to be a tri-tip again, but there's a lot of stuff you could do. I got some, I got a fish idea for tomorrow because, it's Lent and you got to cook your fish on Lent. But I'll tell you one thing that I know for sure will be a part of my weekend will be my Solaire infrared grill. BestHotGrill.com is the hottest, fastest grill on the market. And I love it because you get that perfect sear. So you get that nice crispy crust on whatever you're cooking, locks in all that moisture. It is made in America, high quality, stainless steel, heats up in minutes to 1,000 degrees. And it is a part of my life. It's a part of how I feed my family. I cook them food on the Solaire infrared grill. And I'm happy to say I don't have a busy work weekend. So there will be at least one, perhaps 2 grill sessions going on, and my food will taste better because I have the best hot grill on the market, besthotgrill.com for the Solaire infrared grill. Look, guys, we're seeing it. It's playing out. It's happening. He's doing everything we wanted. It is not just about trade balances. It is about pulling people from China's orbit. It is about using tariffs to get America in the driver's seat for global manufacturing. So we decide if we want to make something or not. It's up to us. So it is, he left the 10% tariffs on, which is perfect. So there's a little bit of pain for people, a little bit of reassurance to the American working class that he's got their back first, but he's also not going to be dumb and tank the economy over it. He's got the exact correct approach. He has super smart guys doing it. And if you do not feel assured by this, just listen to anything Scott Bessen's saying. We'll try to bring you Besson clips all the time because Besson's got the perfect messaging on this. He's thinking about the American people. No one's been looking out for the American people. Trump is. But it's also, he's not going to do this. He's not going to cut off our nose to spite our face. And those of us who believed in Trump and have paid attention to him as I have, and we have a Breitbart over the years, are feeling very good today. And those of us who haven't are freaking out because he very well might win. And you can see it because the Democrats, the panic that's taking place, they're now accusing Trump of insider trading because before he had those maneuvers yesterday where he jacked up the tariffs on China, but he rolled them back on any of the cooperative countries, and which sent the stock market soaring. Trump had truth bombed right before. Now is a good time to buy. He was acting like it was insider trading. Well, Trump wasn't doing any trading. He was just making a recommendation to the American people, and people now want to investigate him for this. This is not insider trading. This is outsider trading. This is Trump making publicly available information that we are going to do something good. And if you believe Trump, then you would have bought. So I just think it's great that the Democrats continue to root against our country so much that it just exposes them for people who hate Trump much more than they like this country. They never really liked this country, but they certainly hate Trump more. And we need to see that on display. Very important to see that on display. Check out this headline from the New York Times from yesterday. Inside factories in China, a struggle to survive Trump's tariffs. So because they got these sweatshops in China where they are paid slave labor to do work to create American goods, apparel, et cetera, China's feeling he's sympathetic because these people who are treated like slaves in China, that they're not going to be able to have their slaver economy anymore. That might go away. So isn't that an indication that the system might be broken here? Isn't an indication that maybe things are a little bit off? That the New York Times is writing sympathetic pieces for the indentured servants who are working in China on our products. So it feels to me like we are way, way, way on the right track. The left continues to lie in order to try to save some sort of face here. Here's an example. Here's Whoopi Goldberg on The View. Check this out.
He did promise to lower the price of groceries. I have not seen an egg for 1 cent since this man got in. Almost, we're too close. Something almost slipped out my face, But, I mean, what the heck?
What the heck? So fun. Well, we know that you can't get your news from Whoopi. She is the person who recommended Dr. Jill Biden to be the Surgeon General because she's a hell of a doctor, even though Dr. Jill Biden got her ED, her education degree, not even a PhD, an EdD in her 50s. So that's where Whoopi doesn't feel shy about bringing completely fake news to her show. But egg prices are down 44% since the start of 2025. So she may not have seen them gone down one penny because she probably doesn't go to the grocery store. Do you think Whoopi does her own shopping? Because here's the thing. She might live in a place where it's fancy enough where she could maybe go to the store. So it's possible. Because that does happen out here. Like sometimes out in LA where you'll see in the really rich neighborhoods, you will sometimes see celebrities at the grocery store because they know they're not going to get hassled too much because it's sort of normalized. So maybe she does her own shopping, but I doubt it. I'm guessing Whoopi isn't going because she would have noticed egg prices are down big. It does feel like my brand of eggs is down like $2. I got to say. So it does feel like that's $2 a carton. I get the nice eggs. I've said this. I like the nicest eggs. So it feels pretty good. So, but it just shows you what they're reduced to doing is they can't actually bring anything they can't bring any heat. They can only bring lies to try to distract you from Trump's agenda because Trump continues to expose more fraud. He's moving on. The Department of Labor, there was a big meeting. I guess it was a cabinet meeting today as we're recording this. And yeah, it looks like cabinet meeting. And the Department of Labor secretary presenting some of the fraud that Doge has uncovered. Check this out. This is mind-blowing.
Then accountability matters. That's what we're recognizing. With our partners at the Department of Labor for Government Efficiency, just a few weeks ago, we realized there's about $4.4 billion in COVID funds that were not used that the state coffers were just holding on to. Out of that, we've returned $1.4 billion back to the state treasury, so essentially to the American people, and we'll go back and claw the rest of those billions of dollars back. And on the heels of that, late last night, we're understanding unemployment insurance fraud. That trust needs to be whole for the American people. When we need it for who deserves it. That's not what we're seeing. And the numbers that we saw last night, again, exposed by our partners at Doge at the Department of Labor. Since 2020, over $400 million of payments have gone out already. And when you hear these numbers, apparently in the United States, we have over almost 25,000 people who are over 115 years old who are collecting $59 million that we have sent out to people. Talk about fraudulent behavior.
Okay, so
Mr. President,
we got 25,000 people who are over 115 years old. I keep saying this, that we keep watching that guy, Ashton Hall. We keep watching him get up early and dunk his face in a bowl full of bottled water with lemon in it. And we keep watching him rub a banana peel on his face, and he puts on these sleeves on his calves when he wants to go run. And we're told that's going to get you longevity. That's not going to get you longevity. Apparently, he's being on the government dole because the people who are on the government dole are apparently living past 115. So this is the fountain of youth. Someone has found it. We got to go track down these people. We got to interview them. Let's have them on the show, Misty. Let's make time for the 115-year-olds. I want to have a whole series on the 115-year-olds who've used government money to stay alive this long.
Mr. President, 28,000 people between 1 and 5 years old have collected fraudulent payments at the tune of $254 million has gone out. And lastly, 10,000 people who have not...
So you're saying 1 to 5 year olds are clever enough to navigate the system so that they can get payments, $254 million, $250 million for 1 to 5 year olds. I have 3 of my 4 children, and we'll throw the 6-year-old in there. My 0 to 6 year olds or 1 to 6 year olds, not one of them has brought in a single federal dollar into this household. That's an indictment of me. It's an indictment of them. If they were more industrious, they would have figured out how to get at least one of these millions, 254 million. I bet you, let's say 100,000. I'm going to set them all down and right after this show. I'm going right in there and I'm saying, guys, how are you not able to get the government money? They were just giving it out. Everyone was getting it. Lorene Powell Jobs got some with Aussie Media. I wrote about this. And was this breaking Biden? It was breaking Biden. COVID fraud stuff. Look, if the richest people in the world are getting the money, then there's no reason you children shouldn't be able to get it.
$54 million has gone out. And lastly, 10,000 people who have not been born yet, 15 years into the future, $69 million, and they haven't even been born yet. In one case, they will be born 129 years from now. The United States government sent them 41,000.
No one's reading this right. Is that there is someone who's figured out the future. There is a time machine. Someone got in a time machine and came back and allocated themselves government funds. If you get that set up in one of those gold IRAs I was talking about, you know how much money that's going to be worth in 129 years? We got to get this segment sponsored by Priority Gold, Misty. We got to do that, because if you had got that money, put it in before you're born by 100 years or so, get that nice little accumulation, 3% a year, 7% a year, who knows? Man, that could really compound. Interest rates compound. This is a clean bust here. And how do the Democrats defend this? They don't like Doge. They don't like Musk. They want to key his car. Lori Chavez de Reamer, Labor Secretary. Nice presentation here. We got a little bit more. Let's play the rest.
$1,000, and they're not born yet. So under the Department of Labor, those are the things that we're uncovering. I couldn't be more honored to tell the American people that we're bringing back their dollars and we're saving them and returning them to the United States Treasury. Also, jobs numbers. Last Friday, 228,000 new jobs were reported. That is good for the American people. That is my primary job, is to grow that workforce under your leadership. So we've kicked off the America at Work tour, and we'll be visiting all 50 states, and I'll be working with my colleagues here to do just that. So thank you, Mr. President. We're going to grow this economy. We're going to keep our focus on the American worker.
Nice job.
So you're finding tremendous fraud, though. Those numbers are really,
really bad. All right. Trump had another win today. We're having a lot of good news coming out of Washington, because Trump is taking the approach that I want to see, which is that he is not stopping. He is not slowing down. He's going to keep moving forward with the agenda. Do not give the media enough time to craft a narrative. What was our worst news cycle of his administration thus far? It was the Signal news cycle, where we spent a week on sort of a non-issue. Now, of course, if you want my honest opinion, I think it's completely insane that Jeffrey Goldberg, one of the worst journalists in America, who lives to undermine President Trump, was put on a text thread with cabinet secretaries and national security advisors, stuff like that. Of course, I think that's outrageous. But if you look at what was said in the thread, no secrets were given. The mission was a success. There was nothing that wild that was said within the text thread. It was ultra low stakes. In fact, it was zero stakes. It ended up not mattering at all. It was weird, but it didn't really matter. We still talked about it for a week. So what Trump needs to do is, whenever there's something negative to be said, he needs not dwell on it, keep passing the next thing, passing the next thing, passing the next thing. And he's doing it. And what he's doing right now, this is a really fun one. He is bringing shower pressure back, water pressure back. Check this out.
In my case, I like to take a nice shower to take care of my beautiful hair. And I have to stand under the shower for 15 minutes till it gets wet. It comes out drip, drip, drip.
The Biden administration launched what you've called a war.
So this is him being a blue-collar billionaire. Is there anything worse than a shower with no pressure? And he's thinking, well, what do people like? He sits around, he makes these observations, and part of him being a political outsider, he's a noticer. He really does notice things. And I just like how he just turns them into action the same way that he got rid of the paper straws. It's just, we need the plastic straws. They even got the corn-based plastic, which are fine. They feel the same if you really want to be a green person. But the paper straws, they just get ruined. And my life is a little worse because of paper straws. Trump gets rid of them. There's so many water pressure regulations, and it makes your life a little bit worse. And in fact, I think he makes the shower go slower. So he wants to have the water pressure back, and so he can wash his beautiful hair. And I just think it's great. It's a great way of putting it. So here comes the executive order. This is Will Scharf. This is one guy, Joel Pollack knows Will Scharf from, I think he went to Harvard Law with him. But whenever Will Scharf is in the room, you're always happy because he's always bringing executive order. So whenever you see this guy on the screen that I've got the camera on now, whenever you see him, you know good news is coming because he's signing some executive order. That's what he comes in to do.
Launched what you've called a war on showers. They had certain regulations that basically killed the water pressure of showers and other water appliances. But the shower heads are a huge
There's no
deal.
water. You don't get water. It's ridiculous.
So with this executive order, we're effectively going to be reversing that set of regulations to ensure that Americans have choice in the consumer market.
In my case, I like to take a nice shower to take care of my beautiful hair. And I have to stand under the shower for 15 minutes till it gets wet.
I think they do the Instagram thing now where they just start playing it over again. So they keep you focused. But anyway, you get it. That's good stuff. And that's what I like. I just, big and small, keep doing it, keep moving on. Now, here's one where I'm a little on the fence about, and I want everyone's take on this. So Ted Cruz now has assembled a Senate panel to mull permanent daylight savings time. And I will tell you, my mood gets immeasurably better when daylight savings time comes around. I'm an outdoor guy. And I'm not a morning person. So even though I have to be for work, I've been getting up early. I've had morning radio. I had morning radio for 7 or 8 years, and I have small kids. So I've spent the last decade getting up early, but I don't like it. I've never liked it. I never look forward to it. But I do look forward to those afternoon, evenings, playing sports with my kids or outside by myself, taking walks, whatever it is, barbecuing. So I love it. That said, the alternative to daylight savings is that your children wake up in the dark and go to school in the dark a lot of the year. So if you leave it as daylight savings, then in those winter months that you are walking your kids to school in the dark. I don't know if that's great. I don't know if that's good for them because school starts too early anyway. And now it's going to start too early in the dark. I don't know if that works for their circadian rhythm. And I've got some fear about that. So daylight savings, they're talking about keeping daylight savings, which means essentially you take the international date line where we would naturally be situated on it. And then we just are arbitrarily moving ahead because we like it better. Do we want to do that? I don't really know. Because I do see the trade-offs. I am someone who definitely feels happier when the sun is shining. I mean, just tonight, very good chance I'm going to get my Solaire infrared grill out and grill those hamburgers. And it'll be nice that when I get out there, the sun will still be up. I do like that, of course. And I like that all year. But given the nature of the Earth's tilt and the school schedule and the fact that we have there's a lot of things here we got to consider. And I think there is... I guess if I had to choose, I don't hate this because I always prefer a little bit of more daylight in the afternoon, but I want your take. aloha@alexmarlow.com. Please weigh in for me if you've got an opinion on this because I heard a pretty convincing argument that really we should just go back to standard time. I don't think I want that. I don't want that. I like the daylight savings at least part of the year, but I don't really know if this is a broken one. So let's see, and I want your opinion, and I will voice all of these on the show. Another big one that's going on is that we've had some real advancement in the Senate and the House are moving forward, defying odds to pass a budget resolution. I've got caught up on this with Bradley Jay, who's our congressional reporter. I'll give you guys an update on this. This is another one that was sort of a surprise. So Thursday morning, only 2 GOP no votes on this. And this was sort of an issue that was under the radar with a lot of the tariffs dominating the news. But Trump was working with Mike Johnson in the House for this on weeks. And the resolution allows for Republicans to move forward with budget reconciliation. And so a lot of the agenda, so the bulk of Trump's agenda on border and immigration is in this bill. Energy, spending, tax cuts, all of this is being advanced right now. So there's all a pretty good positive. And it happened again because Trump is moving fast. It happened pretty quickly without a lot of fanfare, which can be beneficial because as much as I love the media stuff, as much as I love to be able to dwell on it with you on the show and talk about it, ultimately the main thing is to get the agenda through. So House holdouts were concerned over spending cuts. Trump had focused on tax cuts first, and budget hawks are concerned about this. That's justifiable to me because we do need to get the spending cuts going. And we don't want to miss opportunities. We don't want to blow political capital before we cut enough spending. So that is something to discuss. So are you tired of destructive content flooding your screens? Well, I was too. And that's why I teamed up with the Angel Guild, and I'm part of the Angel Guild community. I want entertainment that inspires and uplifts, doesn't drag us down. And let's face it, I don't trust Hollywood anymore. So throwing on a Hollywood movie, throwing on a show for your kids, you don't know for sure unless you've vetted it. But with the Angel Guild, I'll tell you, I can vote on upcoming films and support the movies that reflect the values that I align with and bring to you on the show every day. Plus, I get early access to inspiring content, and I no longer have that Hollywood push of their entertainment into my household. So Angel Guild is leading the charge, creating high-quality, faith-filled films. You know The Sound of Freedom, Cabrini, Homestead, powerful movies, must see if you haven't already seen them. If you want to make a real difference, where we put our dollars shapes the future of entertainment, culture, etc. Let's support the content that amplifies light and hope and gives our kids a future without the harmful influences of Hollywood. Please join me in making a difference today by going to angel.com/Marlow. That's angel.com/Marlow. That's angel.com/Marlow to join the Angel Guild now. The House had previously passed a budget resolution which instructions have committees to find a minimum of $1.5 trillion in savings, and the Senate version, which is what was advanced, only has $4 billion in savings. So there's almost no savings here. That is a negative, and we do need to hold accountability there, because again, this will be seen as one of those he promised to build the wall and then he didn't situations if we're not careful, because we do not want too much of the administration to go on before spending is cut, because we will really lose some political capital here. First of all, we want promises made, promises kept. The other thing is we want the moral high ground when it comes to the debt deficit. We want to be part of the solution in that regard. So the only way to get there, in my opinion, is not with revenue raising, it is with cuts. So we need to cut, and we need to cement those cuts, lock them in. All right, so some senators insisted that doing it this way was necessary for complex parliamentary reasons that I am boning up on. I don't have this all straightened out at the moment, but a lot of this has to do with Congressional Budget Office scoring compliance. So we'll have more detail for that at Breitbart.com for you, and I'll bring it to you on the show as it becomes more clear. So Thune and Johnson held a press conference this morning. Thune promised they were on the same page as the White House, and they'd be very aggressive at trying to amp up those cuts in future versions of the bill and in future legislation. But this is all arm twisting, and I don't know if there's any assurances here that's going to happen. But overall, big win for Trump, and the hard work of hashing out the specifics in terms of the spending cuts and the tax policy go into effect now. And that's what we'll be keeping an eye on as we head towards, hopefully, what we have been talking about as a big, beautiful bill. All right, let's see. What else is going on in the news? Oh, Trump has directed the Justice Department to probe officials who have opposed him in his first term. This guy, Christopher Krebs, who I think was a big thorn in Trump's side when he was trying to challenge some of the voting irregularities, and Miles Taylor, I wrote about quite a bit in one of my books. I feel like it was Breaking the News. I got to get these straight. It's the I know what I spent time on. I don't always know where it ended up. But those of you, if you're with the show, then my books are good. Just, take your time with them, go through them. You'll like them, and you'll learn stuff too, and you'll be reminded of things that are important. But Miles Taylor was the guy who was a low-level Department of Homeland Security guy, mid-level at best. And he had written all those anonymous posts that went viral at the New York Times and wrote a book, and he wouldn't give his name out. And we were all told by the media, essentially, or was implicated, that the reason why he wouldn't share his name is because he's so important. Maybe he's Mike Pence. Maybe he's Mad Dog Mattis. Maybe he's someone so important that if his name came out, he could really get himself into a lot of trouble, and it could be seen as deeply undermining the administration and perhaps be seen as treason. Well, as it turned out, he was only doing it because he was a low-level guy, and no one would have ever cared who this low-level person, Miles Taylor, was and what he had to say. He was able to use it to get a lot of publicity. I think he got a cable news contract. He sold 1 billion books and carved out a nice life for himself in the punditry, even though he's an inconsequential person. And all he would do is just trash talk Trump. And now Trump wants to look into him, and Trump did use the word treason, suggesting that perhaps this guy is engaged in some sort of treason. And I like that level of pressure, because we absolutely need to have the people who are thinking of undermining this president think that there could be dire consequences. Let's play this Trump clip.
The next presidential memorandum we have for you relates to Miles Taylor. You may recall that Miles Taylor served in the Department of Homeland Security during your previous administration. In his capacity with the Department of Homeland Security, he leaked classified information. He wrote a book under the pseudonym Anonymous, making outrageous claims both about your administration and about others in it. What this presidential memorandum is going to do, one, it's going to strip any active clearance that he has in light of his past activities involving classified information. It's also going to order the Department of Justice to investigate his activities to see what else might come up in that context, given his egregious behavior during your previous administration.
And I had no idea who this guy was. I had no idea. I saw him on CNN, or one of them, I guess CNN, a lot. He'd be on all the time, saying that the president is I had no idea. It's like, in this office you have a lot of young people, and they're here. I'll see him for 2 minutes, and I assume he was in the office, but I barely remember him. It was somebody that went out and wrote a book and said all sorts of terrible things that were all lies. It was this gentleman or that gentleman, like I dealt with him all the time. I had no idea who this guy. I said, who the hell is Miles Taylor? And he made a living on going on CNN talking about the president. And I think what of lies, bad things. And I think it's like a traitor. It's like spying. He walks into the office. He's supposed to be sitting here. A lot of people, I'll be here and there'll be 20 people standing in the room. There'll be oftentimes young people in the office. I assume he was one of them at least. But I didn't know anything about him. And he wrote a book, anonymous, and I always thought it was terrible. And now we have a chance to find out whether or not it was terrible. But it was a work of fiction. Had a lot of publicity. Got himself a nice job with CNN or one of them. And I think we have to do something about it. You can't have that happen. If that happens to other presidents, it wouldn't be sustainable for other presidents. I seem to be able to sustain. But if that happened to other presidents, it's just unfair. And if it was a Democrat president, I'd say that's a terrible thing. A thing like that can happen. That's a terrible thing. And it's time to find out whether or not somebody can do that. Can they write a book? And, because they happen to be one of a lot of people in a room, and they go out and write a book, and worse than that, call it anonymous, like it's a big deal. And everybody's saying, who is it, who is it, who is it? Then it was found out who he was a long time later, and he got a lot of publicity off that one. He's like a promoter. But we're going to find out whether or not somebody's allowed to do that. I think it's a very important case, and I think he's guilty of treason, if you want to know the truth. But we'll find out. And I assume we're recommending this to the Department of Justice.
Yes, sir.
I know that's a long clip, but I let it roll because how great is that? I mean, it's just a perfect summary. He's a promoter. It should be treason. At least it should be investigated as such and should be treated perhaps as that's what it is. And he was completely inconsequential. His description of all these young people running around, I spent some time in the Oval Office with Trump a couple of weeks ago, and there really is what it is when it's small quarters, and the first three faces you see are all young people. He usually has one, maybe two of his top advisors in, maybe one of them shuffles in and then goes out. It's not that many people. The people are young, and there's only a handful of people who are getting consistent face time with the big guy all day long. So for this guy to act like he had some sort of deep knowledge, because I think he was a spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security, clearly a narcissist with delusions of grandeur. And he saw a path for him to get a lot of attention for himself so he could be on television and to get to write books, which is fun to write books. That would make a lot of money. That was the goal. But the thing is that legal? And if it's not legal, then what was the illegal aspect of it? And that's what Trump's on. Good for him. Sends a message that if you want to do this, you're going to run the risk that if I survive it, and I probably will because I'm me and I'm cool and I got stamina, as he would say, then you're going to have a lot of problems. You're going to have to lawyer up real good. A lot of those book proceeds are not going to go to you. All right. Chip Roy's got the SAVE Act requiring proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections passed the House. No brainer. Just know that the Democrats are letting non-citizens vote in local elections. Of course, they want it for federal elections. I will warn you, Facebook is heading into a battle with the FTC over an antitrust bill that came up during Trump's first administration. This is why Zuckerberg has been kissing Trump's butt. Zuckerberg is not to be trusted. The Facebook algorithms are improving, but overall, this is the guy who bought the 2020 election for Joe Biden. Let's not forget that. And he censored a lot of conservative content. He had a blacklist of conservative commentators on it. So all of this stuff was known, and he can't just become Zuck 2.0 and just start watching MMA fights and get a better haircut and a better T-shirt, and for us to think that he's completely off the hook. We need to look into this, and this is starting with the FTC next week. I have a big discussion of this on our Breitbart Fight Club show with Colin Medine. Those of you who want a little more content day to day, this is my interview for today talking about this. Super interesting. Carolyn Leavitt, White House press secretary, ignoring journalists who put pronouns in their bio. It's just so fun. We get to have fun now. After all they did to Trump, normally I would think, not normally, but maybe 10 years ago, I would think the White House needs to have all the decorum, and they need to be able to have a level of professionalism that is consistent, that makes it so that we are an example of elevating what it means to be a person and to be a professional. And now I don't care at all. I think that after they tried to take him out of the lawfare, after they tried to shoot him in the head, then now I feel totally fine with it. If you get stupid pronouns, then forget about it. I'm not interested. Yeah, I set aside a clip. I'm not going to play it because we're going long, but Anderson Cooper called on a woman at a town hall the other day, and she immediately corrected him, saying it's they, them. So she says she or her, you or her or something, and she says it's they, them, corrects him right away. He looks completely stunned because he had misgendered her, and now he should be fired. He should be brought up for a hate crime. I mean, who knows? I mean, is there rules? You tell me, Anderson, what should be the consequences for misgendering a she as a they, them, or a they, them as a she? So just the absurdity's over. We got to be over it, and anything we can do to start rolling that back. So I'm glad Carolyn Levitt in the White House doing that and having fun in the process. Another one, maybe we'll drill in this down the road, but the House has passed a bill limiting the authority of judges in federal district courts that would prevent them from being able to issue injunctions. I will check in with my friend Ken Klukowski, who's working for Mike Lee now in the Senate Judiciary, and get his take on this, see where this is going. I'm going to connect with Ken later in the day today, I think, on some stuff. Definitely want to get his take. I'll bring that back to you on the show, but it's all positive. We need to do what we can, and this will be a part of the show for the rest of the year. I've made it a personal project. I will volunteer what I think are good corrections to the lawfare throughout the year. And so you can look forward to that. I endeavor to bring you some of that. And we'll round out my news updates today with Baltimore proposing a bill to put menstrual products in men's restrooms. So don't think that the left is now totally sane. They will try to have these last gasp of woke. Woke is dying, but it is not dead yet. It is in its death throes. But you will still see, particularly in these major cities where there's not enough conservative pushback. And I just encourage you, if you have family, try to get out of the cities. You can always go in to eat and shop on the weekends. That's been my move. It's been really great. I live in a little conservative area. You can walk to school. The schools are usable. It's sensational to go to T-ball on Saturday. Everyone's in a great mood, all very wholesome. And then when it's time to get the fancy steak and to get the better shopping, then we can drive down in the city on the weekends. It's a perfectly good way to live your life. I would absolutely recommend this to people. Get out of the major cities where they're putting menstrual products in men's restrooms. So try to do that. It is not a good way to live. And having to have these conversations with the young people in your life, why are they doing this? You don't want it. You don't want it. Life is chaotic enough. You do not need any of that. All right. That's some good stuff today. I like it. A lot of content for you. We move fast in the Marlow Show. All right. I got a lot of email. Aloha at alexmarlow.com. Let's see, C. Sean Borland on the tariff pause. I'm pissed and really disappointed. He has his supporters, meaning Trump, like me out here backing his play because I believe his reasoning. Now he's opening himself up to talk about conspiracies, dementia, or just undependable, capricious whims. It is one of these ones, Sean. I appreciate the receipt, Sean. You go by, it probably goes just by Sean. I always wonder if people go by the middle name. How do you explain that to people? But Sean, I appreciate it, but hold the line. We're doing good. Trump sees it. Just because he is not explaining his strategy, it does not mean he does not have a great strategy. And the fact that every nation other than Canada and China is playing ball, I think gives away the game. This is all about boxing in China. He wants to pull the entire world away from the Chinese subservience and dependence on their economy. Pull them away from Belt and Road and away from their debt trap diplomacy and bring it towards a more United States-centric global economy. That is to be welcome. There might be some slight short-term pain, but we're getting some short-term gain too. We're seeing those grocery prices flat or down. We're seeing the egg prices come down. We're seeing the jobs market look great. So there's seeing price like gold go up big. I mean, there are things you can do in this economy to insulate yourself to any short-term pain. And remember, the stock market's still doing good over the last year, and I feel like the opportunity is immense. So just, I would say trust the plan. And if you don't trust this plan, then you voted for the wrong guy. That's all I got to say. All right. Ted Raftus Great show today. John Carney was exceptionally insightful, inspiring, as well as yourself. He's talking about yesterday's show. I listened to it. I had to make an emergency grocery store run earlier in the day, and I did listen to the Carney interview. He's so good, and we had such a nice conversation. I learned so much listening back to it. I try to listen to the shows back if I can, because I tend to pick stuff up from the guests in particular that I missed the first time around because I'm thinking about my next question. Carney is just the best, absolute best. He's on fire right now, and we're not going to have him for a week and a half at least. So I would highly recommend yesterday's show if you can get around to it. I don't think I've missed a single pod since you started the new show. Breitbart has essentially become my primary news source. Thanks, Ted. Appreciate it. All right. Smegone. This was on Rumble. Boneless chicken thighs, a mix or bone in. So this is asking about my chicken. I'm just going to tell you guys what I'm doing for food. I enjoy it, and I'm not getting any pushback that's distracting you. So I did the boneless, skinless thighs for the Monday dinner. So this is a Monday. It was a Monday, I think I did the boneless, skinless thighs, maybe Monday or Tuesday. But either way, it was a day where I'm no BS. I'm no BS. Sometimes Mrs. Dr. Marlow, she'll do the one pan chicken where she will do the bone in, skin on, but you got to come up with a little rubbing butter, a little compound butter or something, get up under the skin on that. Those are really nice. The skin, you're adding a ton of calories, so with no protein. So you can do, if you do the boneless, skinless, they're easier, and then you get a higher protein relative to fat ratio. So that's nice if you're trying to get in your protein. And, for me, I'm a one big meal a day guy. I'll do a light lunch and then a big dinner. And so I really want to amp up the protein during the dinner. So I like that as sort of my default, though I'm not opposed to the bone in, skin on, but this was a boneless, skinless night for just the quick Solaire grill, chicken salad. Next up, let's see what else. What do we got? Oh, I'm getting some good feedback on which species we're bringing back. Now they got the direwolf. Rebecca S asked for the Carolina parrot. I looked this up. The Carolina parakeet, I think, is how it's science regards it. They're beautiful, and I don't think they'd cause a disruption in the food chain or kill humans as a mastodon would. Mastodons aren't going to kill us. We're gonna domesticate them. We're gonna be riding on them. I'm going to be taking a mastodon down to the store. So Carolina parakeet, I looked it up, looked beautiful. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And I will say, I've been setting this aside, that Rebecca Mansour, who is one of my right-hand ladies at Breitbart News, who helps me immeasurably at Breitbart, one of our senior editors. She sent me a comment that I said she was objecting to my dismissive, cavalier take on the genetically modified animals. And I told her, you have to write this so I can read on the air, and here it is. Of all the scientific research we should be investing in to make our lives and our world better, bringing back the direwolf is the last item on the list of 13 billion, which divided by 1 billion will give you the number of years since the direwolf has been extinct. That's very funny. Does anyone remember Jeff Goldblum's monologue in Jurassic Park about the lack of humanity in scientists who play God by bringing back extinct creatures? I queued the 1-minute YouTube clip for you here. I did not set it up. But Misty, maybe we could play it in a later show. Did anyone consider the impact reintroducing a direwolf would have on the rest of the animal kingdom, and ourselves included? This is something that is real, that ecosystems are real. And have you ever thought about this? If there's any disruption in the ocean, for example, it's so delicate that any ocean disruption, it just ripples throughout the whole, just all of it. And it is something you can't be too cavalier with that. I got a feeling direwolf is not going to make a big difference, but it could. Who knows? She goes on. Did anyone consider that God or nature, if that makes you more comfortable, already decides the fate of the dire wolf? It's called the wolf, as in the Canis lupus, in the form of the timber wolf and the gray wolf. Just as we don't need to reintroduce the Neanderthal, we also do not need to reintroduce the dire wolf or the woolly mammoth. We have humans and wolves and elephants. We even have totally evolutionarily stupid animals like the panda bears. Maybe we should prioritize taking care of what we have rather than trying to hijack evolutionary biology for fun. If you really have your heart set on owning a pet pterodactyl, maybe make a drone model. In fact, I'm sure the defense contractors are working on that right now. God help us. It's so beautiful. I have some retorts, but I feel like I'm going to let that hang, and I think we're going to come back to it down the road. I still want my megalodon, but I think it's a beautiful sentiment from Rebecca, and I'm very grateful. Those of you who email me and such thoughtful things, even if you're my employees, I still appreciate the thoughtful emails. aloha@alexmarlow.com if you'd like to correspond with me. I do appreciate any comments that you might have on the show, 5-star reviews, telling 10,000 friends and family members. All of that helps us grow and get better and better so we can bring you more stuff. That is today's show. Thanks to producer Misty, and we'll talk to you next time.